It's funny, my son's making fun of me because he says, you're making an echo, so I don't even know if I need a mic, but I'll do the mic to be, along with everybody else here. I don't have a speech, I just have a story. And my story is basically, when I was 23 years old, I came home and found my mother dead. Then 4 months later, my father died in a hospital from throat cancer. And then, while taking care of everything to become executive of the estate, to wrap up all the countless amount of medical bills coming in, we found adoption papers for Mel Gamble in the safe deposit box. And so I asked the clerk at the surrogate court office, what's a Mel Gamble? And so he looks at me and says, well, do your parents have any other boys? I'm like, well, no. Well, that's you. And so from that moment, I was in this whirlwind of what's going on here. So I run home and I call my sister, who's 10 years older than me, and she lives in Colorado, and I ask her on the phone, was I adopted? She says, no, of course not, Chucky. This is the name that my, adoptive parents would call for me. And I said, well, I found adoption papers for a Mel Gamble. And she goes, oh, yeah, I always knew your name was Victor. Just like that. So now I'm realizing I've been lied to for 23 years. And that my parents and my family, and my extended family all knew this secret. And they were all lying to me. So secrets and lies. And I was in this whirlwind, plus dealing with losing these two adopted people that I thought were my parents, and having to deal with all of their other financial situations and all that. And I can't even tell you what I was going through, all of the pains and dark days. So I'm going to fast forward a bit to 25 years, and I found, through this lots of searching, I found my mother. And the first person I actually met was my half-sister. And so my half-sister, she tells me, oh, Victor, I love you, I love you. I was like, my name is Victor? It's like, I always knew your name was Victor. And so my mother did not forget about me one day in her life. Regardless of what anyone tells you about birth parents surrendering their children to adoption, they do not forget. And they have to live with that until the day they die. One of the things I go through my mother every day is she says, I pray to God every day that I would see you before I died. I cannot live with that, and I don't think anyone should have to live with that. And this is one of the reasons why I decided I had to do something. And, I have an indie news website. I try to put the story out there. See if anyone bites. No one bites. It's not a hot, sexy topic for people. Maybe if I married Kim Kardashian, that would get the top news. I don't know. But I'm already happily married. I don't need a Kardashian in my life. So I figured, what can I do? I mean, I've been an activist for 25 years since I found out I was adopted. What can I do? So I said, you know what? I'm going to run for public office. I'm going to run for public advocate, because you know what? There are people in this city, and there are people that were adopted in this city that aren't being fairly represented. And regardless of what state law says about adoptees now having access to their birth certificates, there are city agencies. There's the Department of Vital Records. They have information there, and I think that adoptees have the right to know that full information. When I was in that office with the surrogate court, I couldn't tell you how I felt knowing that everybody in that office could see information about my adoption except for me. I mean, I had some long, dark days that I had to deal with. And it's just like one of our brothers here said today, it's slavery. I've basically been taken from one family, placed into another, and not knowing about my lineage. Over the past year, I've done extensive searches with search angels and page searches and DNA, and I'm finding amazing information that I could pass down to my son, which is another reason why I really wanted to do this search and find out where do I come from, because I have an 8-year-old son, and I really wanted to know more about where at least his father came from, so that he would have a little bit more understanding, and especially, like we were mentioning before, for just basic health information. I can't tell you how many times after I found out I was adopted, that I'd go to a doctor and say, well, do you have a history of this in your family? I'm like, I have no idea, because I was adopted. And they go, oh. And just like that. So I could have died at any moment. I had no idea what's going on in my past. So I don't want to take too much of the time here, but as I mentioned before, I'm running for public advocate because I feel there are things in the city that the public advocate can do. A public advocate is an independent power in the city, and he's not beholden to any of the major corporate donors or whatever. If there's an issue like adoption rights, adoptee rights, he can take that on and actually make change in the city government. So thank you for giving me the mic and bearing with me while I make through this talk.
Adoptees have a right to know. Sealed records have got to go. Adoptees have a right to know. Sealed records have got to go.